So nobody can deny that there is a lot going on in the world right now. Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring in a yin-yang perspective on this. Now, I did a video years ago about how there was a yin-yang imbalance in the world and relating it to current events and society and what's happening with people, individuals, right? Everybody's fighting. And it's still applying today, but in a different way. There's a lot of symbolism happening right now. And I wanted to talk about this because I think it's important to understand, or if you are interested in things like yin-yang philosophy and Chinese medicine and different approaches or different windows or different lens on everything that's happening right now as a whole, or energy forecasts and things like that, then you might enjoy what I have to say, hopefully. And a lot of this may be off the cuff, but what my understanding or what I take away from it. So what we are seeing and what we have been seeing is a yang rising. Okay. If you're not familiar with yin and yang, excuse me, yang is this more, if you think in terms of qi and energy, it has an uprising and an expanding effect. So if you think of the most yang element, which is fire, it moves very quickly, right? It rises and it spreads often erratically. And yin, on the other hand, is your more inward focused, contracting energy, where you think of softness and receptivity and darkness and things like the moon versus the sun, right? The brightness versus the darkness, and, going into the depths of your soul, maybe. So that is more your yin, receptive, a softer energy, more feminine energy. So we see this, what people are looking at as, on the surface, it looks like a split between yin and yang, but there's an illusion in there, because even though you're thinking from the standpoint of polarities, right? This side versus this side, right? If you're talking American politics, for example, yang versus yin, right? Well, actually it's an illusion because it's both very yang in nature, okay? When you have two very coarse, if you think of yang, it can be, and yang out of balance, can be very coarse, rough, aggressive, right? Can be erratic, can be chaotic. Okay, again, fire is the most yang. So you have these energies of maybe wood element and fire element, which are the most yang in nature, yang elements in nature, that are rising, right? Rising. And you have a lot of people on both sides that are rising. Anger is rising, right? You have anger, which is associated with wood element, and you have a lot of times like anxiety and erratic nature, scattered nature, which is associated with fire element. And wood feeds fire. So when you have an out of balance wood, which can look like somebody who is all about control and dominance and power, wants to just dominate other people, it feeds into the next element, which is fire. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes sense. If you've seen some of my other videos about the interaction of the 5 elements, I just wanted to throw that in there. And also something that's very interesting. So we see a lot of unrest, especially right now in America. We see it in the world. There's a lot of war happening right now. There's volcanoes erupting. So there's a lot of this coarse, rough, violent, yang energy happening, okay? And if you think about it, the summer solstice is coming up in a couple weeks, okay, in June, and it is the height of yang, the height of this energy. So you may see it play out even more, and why it's just coming even more out on the surface. So you see all these things happening, right? And the thing is that the thing that anchors the yang is the yin. It can either anchor it down, and we're not seeing the yin quite anchoring the yang down yet. So the question is, will the yin eventually be able to control or anchor down the yang, or will the yang energy or the fire just burn itself out? Because if you think of the dynamic of yin and yang, they work together. You can't have one without the other. They eventually transform into one another. So will the yang energy eventually fizzle itself out, burn itself out. We've seen some of this energy kind of scorching itself to some degree. And if you're paying attention to like American politics and stuff, that when you're butting heads and you have these really forceful energies against each other, I won't name names, but you can probably grasp, if you've been paying attention, what I'm getting at with some of these things and symbolism behind them. You see when you have forceful energies butting heads, right? They just eventually implode to a certain degree or burn themselves. So that's kind of the question. From my standpoint, I think we're going to see this yang rising surface level chaos for a while, until this softer energy has the ability to come in. And you know, it's like the water is hiding underneath all this superficial stuff. So folks talk about a 3D, 5D split happening, and I can get on board with that because I think there are a lot of things happening. So it's not just about human intelligence, but it's also about human consciousness and awareness. Self-awareness, I think, is the key here, because right now we're seeing a lot of disruptors, right? Disruptors to the energy, to the vibration. And if you want to know what vibration we're sitting in, just think about it, read the news, pay attention, and ask yourself the simple question: does this feel like it opens me up, expands me, or does this energy feels like it's constricting, it's heavy, and it's just like tight? Then you'll have your answer, what vibration a lot of society is sitting in right now. But back to this 3D, 5D split, or this split in consciousness, right? Not about intelligence, about a level of self-awareness. This is the key, right? So when you are self-aware, you are able to have attention to things, pay attention to things as we should pay attention to things and what's going on, right? We can't be ignorant about things, but also have the ability to not give your attention away and be carried away by the flames, carried away by the erratic nature of fire, right? It's the ability to also stay grounded into your earth. So a lot of people are living just in a fight or flight right now, where they're living on the surface in this scattered, erratic, woody, out of balance wood, out of balance fire, which looks like, again, scattered nature, anger, violence, very like all over the place. The person's not grounded in their body. They're not grounded to earth. So I think the self-awareness and the self-consciousness, or the split, I guess you could call it, is folks who have the ability to now adapt. It's like when just a change or chaos is thrown at you, or is thrown, all of a sudden you're thrown into a pool of like erratic nature, a lot of changes, drastic changes all at once. How will you react to that? How will you adapt to that? You could say most people are not adapting well to it, right? Because we're in our emotions, and it's fine to be in our emotions. But how can you pull yourself out of it and not be carried away? You know, the disruptors are disrupting your own personal rhythm, your own personal vibration, and they're sucking it out of you. They're draining it out of you. What you see on the surface is also distracting you from what's hiding underneath. But it's interesting because now you're seeing people's rashes start to come out with this rising effect, like old symptoms and trauma and projections, like all this stuff is being pulled up, rising with the yang, okay? Stuff that's been deep, stored deep, and it's showing people's true colors. Essentially, it's showing people's true colors on a morality level, on a consciousness level. Just things are coming out to the surface that maybe were just kind of calm before, the calm sea, whatever it is, or things that are just like secrets being hidden. So is this the end of the world yet again? No. We're gonna always have shifts and transitions, but we're seeing a very big shift right now. At least like there's just a lot of very, again, this erratic kind of coarse energy running through. And I think it's happening to bring more self-awareness to people, because we've always had shifts and changes through history and things that have happened, and people still were kind of in their own bubble and weren't self-aware enough to create enough change, I guess you could say. But I think this is a really important, really symbolic time where things are really, really heightened and really coming to the surface, where people have no choice but to look at their rashes that are coming out, right? Or to look at everything as a whole, to not just sweep things under the carpet, to not just turn the cheek the other way, right? That people have done for many years. And again, the solstice is coming up, so you have the height of yang, the height of this energy, right? So you may see even more stuff happening, fortunately. And it feels uneasy to our systems, right? Because we are designed not to be in a constant fight or flight or erratic or chaotic zone. We are designed to be centered, to be the observer, to be in our earth, to have the ability to adapt, to change gradually. Although now things just thrown at us, so it's hard for a lot of people to adapt, right? Stress response is high, histamine responses are high. Body can't handle this kind of change so soon. It's like walking outside and it's 80 degrees one day, and I'm in New Jersey, so it happens a lot. 80 degrees one day, and then the next morning it's like 40 degrees. You know, you get sick. Your body can't handle it. So it's adapting to the change to some degree, but we're hit with it even harder, so it's harder to adapt. But anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found it interesting. Just to give you a little insight, my perspective on fitting this all into yin yang and what I think is happening, and you know, the dynamic of not only yin yang, but within the elements and the cycles. And now as we're getting into summer and the height of this heat rising, you know, after the solstice, as we go more into yin time, will things, you know, as yin gets more powerful in nature, will it have the same effect in society where it's able to like ground things a little more? Time will tell. But the important thing is to be aware of it all, to recognize it all, to pay attention, but not give your attention away. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe. Truly appreciate you watching, and check out some of my other videos. I put out a lot for you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.